Happy Friday, happy Memorial Day weekend. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple here with Husker Online headlines. And before we get into the open of our show, as always, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. If you got a loved one or someone in need, a close family or friend that just needs some help, daily chores, daily tasks, StayHome.Care is there for you, your loved ones, to help you with simple tasks, cooking, cleaning, rides, grocery shopping, companionship. They're there to help you, your family, your loved ones. Call them at 402-205-2233. Again, that's StayHome.Care, the title sponsor here of the show. But we got a great show here, Sip, to kick off Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
And to kick it off, let's welcome in one of the greatest black shirts of all time, former defensive end Grant Wistrom, joining us. And Grant, I'll be honest, I don't think a lot of people know that you live in Lincoln, and I almost had to do a double take. I was at U-Stop a few months back, and I remember seeing you at U-Stop on Pine Lake Road. I'm like, wait a minute, that's Grant Wistrom. You're back in Lincoln. Your daughter, Charlie, is a member of the Nebraska soccer program. What's it like for you to be back living in a place that obviously meant a lot to you in your football career?
I mean, I don't know if we'd have made the move had she gone to school anywhere else, but just the opportunity to come back to Lincoln and be a part of this awesome community, be a part of her experience for the next, 4 or 5 years here, and grow the businesses that we have here. I mean, we jumped at the opportunity, and outside of the home remodel that we've gone through, it's been a pretty awesome experience.
Home remodels can be stressful.
Yeah. And this one's been reminiscent of the money pit. So, but we're getting to be on the back side of it now. And we've had to be the general contractor for about the last 4 months, running it ourselves. So now we're finally through all that and actually get to go out and enjoy Lincoln a little bit.
Grant, what do you like about Lincoln when you say there's not many communities that you would move back to? What is it? Why do you like it?
It has everything to do with my time, that I spent here already, and just the love and support that I've always received from the state of Nebraska and all the Husker fans. And just to get to come back and be a part of it, man, I am so pumped for the fall. I'm going to have soccer on Thursday, football on Saturday, and soccer again on Sunday. I can't think of a better way I could spend, a long 4 days. So to be a part of that, to be more involved on game day, get to go to more games, to give back, go and talk to groups and participate in community outreach, things like that. So I don't know. My heart's full of being back here.
Nice, Grant. That's nice.
And, one of those important figures for you is Coach Tom Osborne. And you live relatively close to Coach Osborne, obviously, where you're at right now. How much have you been able to maybe visit or see Coach Osborne since you've been back in Lincoln?
Quite a bit, actually. He's outside a lot, still very active. He's coming and going all the time. Stops by to say hi if we're outside working, which seems to be a lot with the current state of affairs. So it's been great. It's been great getting to see more of him and see Miss Osborne as well. Once again, just another positive of being back here.
Sean, I almost feel like we should reintroduce Grant a little bit. Grant Wistrom, first-round pick in 1998, 6th overall, which tells you what he did at Nebraska. 3-time national champion at Nebraska, Super Bowl champion with the St. Louis Rams. That was the 99 season. Nebraska was 49-2 during Grant's career, and Grant won the 1997 Lombardi Award. Now, Grant, it's pretty clear now, but this has always been striking to me about you. And you remind me of Dominic Raiola in this regard, in that Dominic's a very proud alum. Not all alums fit that category, but it seems like you're a very proud alum. Is that the right read? And what leads to that? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, no, I'm as much a Husker and a black shirt as I feel like I'm a Wistrom. I mean, it's part of my DNA. And it goes back to the relationships that I made here amongst my teammates, amongst the coaches, the fan support, the love that we had, and you know, I I hope we get good at football. You know, we get better at football so we can, thump our chest a little bit more. But regardless, I'm always a Husker, and I always will be.
With the daughter in the athletic department, I mean, what kind of intel or view do you have of the football program now? Do you get some pretty good insight as far as the talent, the personnel, what's going on over there, and how much have you really studied this team now that you're back here living here?
Honestly, not. I haven't had a lot of time to. I don't know much more about the team right now than I did 6 months ago. Only thing I really know is what I read online through guys like you. But what I do know, I have got to meet Coach Huel, have got to be around the team a little bit. I do like the kids that they have there. I do like Coach Huel. And the fact, I think he's building something good here. I think it's hard to do that in this day and age with the NIL and the portal, keeping the team around. But you look at the guys, we don't lose very many guys to the portal,
Right.
And so I think that speaks volumes to the culture that he's building there. Because I think trying to develop a team in this day and age is damn near impossible. But I think he's getting about as close as you can to it.
What about, I might go back to the football team in a little bit here, but what about, okay, so your daughter, Charlie, is on the soccer team. What about the athletic department? You've had to probably get to know the athletic department at large fairly well through Charlie's recruitment and all of that. What is there anything about the athletic department that makes an impression on you, or any things?
It's still everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction. It's still, what can we do to support the student athletes? What can we do to make them better in the classroom, on the field? It's all hands on deck at all times. And so, and that's the way that it was here too. And to see that same, obviously, football, volleyball here are, the breadwinners, but to see that attention that's given to other sports as well, it's awesome. And to have a daughter that gets to play here and experience that, just means the world to me. I know Coach Walker, he started the program when I was here, and
Yep.
I know how he cares about his players. I know, very much like Coach Osborne, truly feel that he cares about him more as people than he does as his players, and really believes in developing players. He likes taking players that other schools maybe pass over and developing them. And that's where, he's that's where he wins, is just getting good talent and bringing it in and developing it into great soccer players.
What about the upgraded facilities? I mean, what are your viewpoints on just what you've been able to see? Because when you were at Nebraska, they were regarded as the best facilities, and they've kind of had to keep upping the standard, over the decades here. What jumps out to you about that new weight room and just some of the other amenities that these athletes have, like the training table and the recovery areas?
Dude, they're spoiled freaking rotten. I mean, I don't know why you would ever leave that place. I wouldn't have a home anywhere. I would just live there. Between, like the movie theater, the sensory deprivation pods, the float tanks. I mean, it's on another level. I felt like we had it pretty dang good when we were here, but clearly it's something entirely different these days. That weight room is amazing. Really, really amazing.
Grant, you were 9 years in the NFL. Did you see that in St. Louis, or did you see that in Seattle? Anything like that?
Their weight rooms didn't even compare to our old weight room, at the next level. And it's, obviously that's a recruiting tool. You're not recruiting in the NFL. They don't put the type of money into that. If a player is going to use a sensory deprivation pod, it's coming out of their pocket. They're not investing in that. So, yeah, it's not even close. Those weight rooms would make a pimple on that weight room's butt.
Before you moved back here, Grant, how many games would you say you've been to? Because obviously you had your own football career for a long time. You couldn't make it back, but have you been to a lot of games in the last 5-10 years since before you came back here now?
Yeah, with the businesses that we have here, I usually try to get to at least one, maybe 2 games a year, annually. So I try to get back as much as I can. Obviously, it's not as much as I'd like to, but every experience I come back to is really appreciated.
I mean, are you, I don't know. I think I can ask this in a appropriate manner. Are you open to addressing the team? Is there any way is there any way you can help the program? Are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Jason, Peter, Jay Foreman, and I went down earlier, right before spring ball, and talked to the team.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so Coach Rule had us in, and Jason and Jay had a lot more input than I did. They kind of helping with the culture of the team, and so they were attending a lot of the spring practices, being there for the guys. But yeah, I'm here in any capacity that I can serve. Like I said, the Husker family is my family. If you can do anything to help your family out, you're going to. So any time that my phone rings, I pick it up.
As we talk here with Grant Wistrom, NIL has obviously changed a lot of college athletics. Do you ever think about your era of players when you see players like Jackson Cantwell in Missouri being represented by Drew Rosenhaus and getting $2.5 million as seniors in high school? I mean, how wild has this gotten? And do you ever think about, like, man, if this was around in our era, a lot of guys' lives would probably be a little bit different right now just because of the amount of money that's now flowing into college football.
Yeah, and I had a long talk with my wife, and I were talking about that the other day, and I don't know if I'd want it. I don't feel that, and I understand, and I think it's great kids are getting paid, and I don't begrudge them for that, but I think it changes the locker room dynamics. I think that you can't tell me that it doesn't impact what guys think about other guys, and the camaraderie and the chemistry in the locker room. So that's I think that's a bad thing about the NIL. I don't, when we played, I played for Jason played for me, Vershawn, all those guys, we played for each other. We weren't playing for the name on our back. We weren't playing for, social media follows. It was all about going out there and just building the best football team we could be for each other. So, and also, man, I was an idiot in college when I was broke. I can't imagine you put 6 or 7 figures in my bank account, what kind of dumbass I would be, and then, I think it does impact your drive on trying to get to the next level. You've already won a little bit. So, for me, there was no financial reward in college at all. People's like, well, what did you get when you went to Nebraska? I'm like, I might've got a drink or two at a bar or a meal picked up every now and then, but that was it. And Jason and I would we'd work out, practice, and then go to Gold's Gym and work out again at night. I'm not sure that same drive, Jared Talmadge was with us too. I'm not sure that same drive would have been there, had you had a full bank account already. It's a lot easier to get relaxed when you're in a comfortable state.
God, it's that answer basically, you answered the question I was just going to ask you, which was, is it harder for players nowadays to have the hunger that largely I thought defined you, Grant? I thought the hunger with which you played was a very defining characteristic. Is it harder for guys, do you think, some to generate that now that they have not only all that money, but they live in a palace already, right?
Yeah. I think that comfort does make you relax. You lose your edge, and we didn't have that. We were still playing to get to the next level. We were still playing for each other. So yeah, I do think you have to find a way to navigate that, because it's not going away. NILs are not going to put it back in the box. If they ever tried to, somebody would sue, and they would win. Blah blah blah. So it's not going away. So NIL's here. You got to make sure you're still finding guys that love football and just love to play football, because the money, that's not going away. So you need to recruit guys that are, all right, I got the money, but I still want to be the best freaking football player I can be.
One of the things this has led to, Grant, is roster cap sizes coming forward in college athletics. And your daughter is a part of the soccer program. They're going to have to deal with it too. But for the football program, I mean, you played with a lot of great men that were walk-ons that used the program at Nebraska to help build their work ethics to now be very successful businessmen in the state of Nebraska, and maybe never played a down of football. I mean, when you think about a world where Nebraska really can't have walk-ons anymore, I mean, how sad is that for a guy like you that knows a lot of guys that use that opportunity to maybe change their lives?
Well, those guys that changed their lives, and now you take away the walk-on program, those guys are going to, Division I AA schools now, Division II schools, which is now pushing those kids further down the line and maybe completely out of football. So, not only does it impact the players at this level, it's a trickle-down effect. So I think it's awful. I think that Nebraska's identity was, especially under Coach Osborne and Coach Solich, was finding rough talent and developing players. And then also, we were taking so many freaking reps out of practice. We would have, you guys were there. We'd have 4 full team stations going at the same time. You don't have the numbers to do that anymore. So, there wasn't anything we weren't prepared for on game day because we'd seen it 100 times during the week. So you take that away, you're not developing talent. You're pushing kids out of football. And then also you're not able to prepare as well for Saturdays. And I think it diminishes the product a great deal and takes away a lot of experiences for a lot of deserving people.
Hey, Grant, you've mentioned Jason a couple of times, Jason Peter, and you guys were an incredible tandem. Longtime Nebraska fans will remember that. I've wanted to ask you this. What separated Jason from the pack? I think he was the 15th pick overall. He was a first rounder. He was an All-American. What separated that interior lineman, Jason Peter, from the pack?
You guys know him. Jason doesn't give a crap. He does not care. He is going to tell you exactly how it is. He doesn't care if it's a popular opinion or what. And, I give Jason credit for a lot of my success. I learned a lot from Jason and how he went out there and led. I don't think he gets all the credit he deserves for the amount of success that we had. I think he was a much bigger part of that than people understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made him. He did not care. It was football all the time. And he was not afraid, where I'm not such a confrontational guy.
Mm-hmm.
He does not care.
Mm-hmm.
So it made it easier for me to step up in those roles because I know Jason, had my back on it and vice versa. So he was definitely the guy that was spearheading the charge. If guys weren't doing the right things, Jason was the one setting the tone. Jason was the one dragging them out of their house to make sure there were workouts, things like that. So, and he's just hard-nosed, tough guy, Jersey guy. And, and that's the way he lives his life. And that's the way he played football.
Speaking of hard-nosed, Charlie McBride was obviously hard-nosed too. Like his style, do you think his style would work today? Or did he make you guys, this the way he coached and yelled at guys and got on guys, but how important was that to the success to have a guy like Charlie?
Oh, everything, and Charlie made us into men, and I think a guy like Charlie can succeed today.
Can you?
Yeah, I do, because I don't know, I'm wired a little bit different and I'm from that era, but I felt like I had coaches in the NFL that were hard asses like Charlie. And there are some guys that didn't do it, but majority of the guys did. And the reason why they did it is because they know guys like Charlie, and the coach I'm referring to in the NFL is Bill Kohler, my D-line coach. He coached a ton of all-pro guys, just a great coach. And he would ride your ass nonstop. But you knew that he cared about your success more than you did, probably. He prepared harder for game day more than you were. So, if somebody's out there and they're all in and they're laying it all on the line every day, they can talk rough to me. You know what I mean? Just be frank about it. I don't want to shoot the coach. I want to know. And so I do think if kids knew that the coaches cared as much as they did, you can get away with being a tough coach.
Hey, Grant, one more for me. We've kept you so long because it's so interesting. One more from me. I always want to ask you about Tracy. And I think the fans, Tracy, your brother, Tracy Wistrom, who at the time he completed his career was Nebraska's all-time Nebraska tight end receiving yards leader. Tracy, I think, gets overlooked when we talk about Nebraska's all-time great tight ends. Where's Tracy? What's Tracy doing now?
Tracy is living his best life in Kansas City. He's married, got 2 beautiful kids. Married a Nebraska girl. She's awesome. I got 2 great kids. Sells operating room equipment.
Okay.
I think Tracy, he got into coaching for a little while. I coached up at South Dakota State. I think when Coach Bowl was there, or North Dakota State. And Coaching involved two things that Tracy doesn't stand for, and that's long hours and not making a lot of money. Got out of that profession, and I think he's found something that suits him pretty good. He's pretty darn good at it.
Great. That's good.
Well, Grant, we appreciate it, your time joining us here on Memorial Day weekend. Take it easy on those contractors, though. You and Jason yelling at contractors would be a sight to be seen.
They don't need to worry about me. They need to worry about my wife.
Hey, Grant, this is really nice of you, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. My pleasure.
All right.
Thanks again to former Husker legend Grant Wistrom for joining us here on HuskerOnline Headlines. Again, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn more about them and the services they can offer you, your family, your loved ones. We're also brought to you by we're also brought to you by HelloFresh.
Mm-hmm.
HelloFresh, if you're not familiar with HelloFresh, they make it easy for you to cook. Look, a lot of times you want to eat healthy, you want to eat right, and do things the right way, but you don't have time to get everything done at home. They make that easy for you. You pick the meals, they send you all the ingredients. There's about 50 choices every week you can choose from, and they send you the meats, the produce, everything, the vegetables, everything you need, the spices, simple, easy to follow recipe cards. It comes in a cooler right to your house. It's never frozen. It's always fresh. That's HelloFresh. And, we've used it a lot at our house. And the great thing is you can customize the size of your order for 2 people, 4 people, 6, 8, however many you're going to cook for. So it helps you not only eat right, it gives you the right portion sizes and everything you need to make great meals for you and your family. We've got a great special with HelloFresh and HuskerOnline. We're going to give you 10 free meals for life, plus 10 free meals plus a free item for life. You just need to go to HelloFresh.com/Husker10FM. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/Husker10FM, and they'll give you those 10 free meals plus a free item for the life. It's 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on the first box. New subscribers only, and it varies by plan. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring us here on HuskerOnline Headlines. All right, let's get into that because it was interesting to hear from Grant
a little bit,
and just he's so calm and shit, but like the fire that guy had.
Well, yeah, the fire's not far under the surface. You can feel it, right? He's different though. He's different than Jason Peter, who you always link those two. They're inextricably linked, but they're different. I never really heard him talk about the sort of yin and yang, the yin and yang. I think that's how you say it. Jason was more forceful. He was a more forceful personality. He was confrontational. I remember covering those guys. Grant was not confrontational. But it was interesting to hear him say that about himself.
Grant was a high profile recruit though. When he came,
was he?
Yes. I read Jason Peters' book about that. Just, when he came, a lot of guys, gave him a hard time because he was so highly ranked, but he backed it up right away and earned everything he got and earned the respect.
So that NIL conversation if it would have been in place back then, he had a premium position. Grant Wistrom would have been worth a lot coming in.
And he said, what he said was the exact same thing Eric Crouch said on Big Red Wrap-Up,
which is,
I don't really know if I'd want all that at that age. Like, he goes, sure, you'd be nice to have a nicer apartment, a nicer car, and be able to go shopping and out to eat more. But he goes, I like the way we had it. And, the way it kind of built you for life. And I think that is one thing about NIL now. You wonder, like, how much will it change the attitudes of the families of the players, the work ethic, when they already have a full bank account when they're 18 years old.
Right. And I think we should give voice sometimes to the players who don't necessarily have $1.5 million in their account. There are some that do, but there's some that don't. And I will tell you this, I've talked to players who they don't mind not having that. They don't mind not having a rich NIL account. They're fine. Like, full disclosure, I talked to Jacob Brandel, whom the head coach brought up the other day, the walk-on offensive lineman from Omaha. And he says it's incredible to be a walk-on because of what you referred to, the facility, He said the food is incredible. He said, we have everything we'd ever
Yeah,
need.
you still get full access to the hotel and the resort.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you just
figuratively speaking.
You don't have an unlimited expense account on the gift shop.
Right.
But you get to use the pool. You
Yeah.
get to eat there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great deal. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, a lot of, and I just want to give voice to those kids who, it's not like a lot of those kids complain.
No,
they don't. They think it's great.
Well, and there are a lot of other things in place where they still get stuff like money. I mean, but yeah, it's that rev share dollar amount that is a game changer.
And Grant said something, and I wish I would have followed up. He says, you can't tell me it doesn't affect the locker room.
I thought that was the most interesting stuff he said, though.
Duly noted for my column. I thought so too.
Just managing it, because here's a guy in Grant Wistrom that we just talked about would have been a highly paid high school NIL player. And if a guy like that would have went in the portal, can you imagine like the money today that would come towards him?
Oh yeah. Like after his sophomore season, I think he had 8.5 sacks. I mean,
in Ohio State and Oregon would call him.
Come on. He would have been worth what in this day and age? What would he
over $1 million?
Well, come on. That's really light.
2 million.
Yeah. I
mean, it's really confusing because he is at a money position.
Yeah.
But he would have been like the highest paid defensive edge player in the portal.
Right.
Whatever that market is.
Right. Now he said that he said, you can't tell me it doesn't affect locker rooms because guys know what each other's making, etc. The question I wish I would have asked him was, well, what about the NFL? I mean, does it affect the locker room in the NFL?
I don't think it does because it's transparent and it's pro.
100. That's what I was hoping you'd say. I totally agree with that because I've had writers say to me, "Soup, come on, man, it's no different than the NFL." Yeah, it is. It is different. It's different. Here's why it's different in part, because there's players who make $1.5 million on your roster, and there's some that make nothing. That's not in the NFL. Nobody's making nothing in the NFL.
Well, and there's transparency in the NFL about what's being made, what the salary cap is.
Mm-hmm.
In college football, there is no transparency. We don't know what people are going to get paid from the rev share. We don't know how much the collective will pay players. We don't know like the other endorsement deals that it's just way harder to understand it all. But I think in some cases it's a lot more than we realize, but in other cases it's exaggerated, and that's what makes it confusing
to the kids. And I think you're right, Sean. I think if there's transparency, it would really alleviate a lot.
But it wouldn't be good either.
You know,
the transparent, like for the public to know.
No, but it might be better for the locker.
Like, I mean, but if a guy like was getting paid a lot and wasn't performing, I mean, you would see fan bases like, boo or, post or use that against a player.
Yeah.
And it'd get ugly.
Okay. Then I was glad that you asked that first question out of the gate, because I still don't think a lot of people know that Grant Wistrom lives in Lincoln.
He lives right by Tom Osborne, which is crazy.
Yeah. So he was in his house, it looked like, undergoing a major remodel. Sounded like there was some stress involved. But Wistrom walks among us now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I saw him at U-Stop on Pine Lake.
Yeah. This was the 6th overall pick in 1998. This was one of the best players we've ever seen. Any position.
If he were able to have maybe 2 to 3 more productive pro years, he could have been a Hall of Famer. Like,
I'd have to look at what he
did. He was.
I'd have to look.
I mean, he was obviously not like an NFL Hall of Famer, but wasn't that far off of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a very high productive pro.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can say he's the best pass rusher we've seen at Nebraska, right? Think about that for a second.
Because like Randy Gregory just didn't do it long enough.
I think Randy. Now I've gotten into some major headbutting with former players over this. I came away from the Randy era thinking Randy was maybe more talented than Grant.
Grant had 53 sacks in his pro career.
Okay. There's no way you can say that Randy was a better player, but I thought he had more raw talent than Grant. Grant, though, that's not to say Grant didn't have a lot. Grant, we always talk about his motor, but he was a freak talent too. Right?
Yeah, Grant, kind of giving you a side-by-side of the numbers. Gregory played 61 pro games, 20.5 sacks. Okay. Wistrom, 132 pro games, 53 point sack. So the percentage of the production is similar, but Wistrom obviously had twice the career as far as total games played.
He didn't have problems.
No.
Gregory had a lot of off-field issues. Grant, I would guess, had almost zero off-field issues, right? I mean, I don't know of any.
But this is a stat that jumps out to me about Gregory. In 61 games, he forced 10 fumbles. Wistrom in 132 pro games only forced 7.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you when Gregory hit. I mean,
Randy was an amazing talent. And I don't want to make
I
don't want to make this a Gregory Wistrom
no.
But because Grant, I said what I said. Nebraska's never had a better pass rusher than Grant Wistrom. I mean, that tandem with Jason Peter was remarkable. It was a remarkable thing to watch.
Yeah, his pro career though,
Grant
is up there with anybody for Nebraska in recent years. I mean, just what he did and the longevity.
And he's in town.
132 games. I mean, that is a lot of NFL games.
Mm-hmm. Well, because Grant, he was going to be available. I mean, he was available. Randy often wasn't available, Sean. I don't think you followed his pro career very closely, but he just wasn't available.
Oh, I did. I mean, I followed it closely. Yeah, I mean,
he was suspended all the time.
But Jerry Jones stuck with him a long time.
He's a freak talent. You stick with freak talents. If he was not a freak talent, they would have pushed him out. That's how the world works. But Grant was an amazing talent, but you could always count on him. You always could count on him. And I'm glad that Tracy's doing well too. Tracy was a great tight end. In fact, a third-team All-American in 2001.
He was
2001.
He had Newcomb and Davison on those teams at receiver, but Crouch really, I mean, that was like his go-to target in a lot of key moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. People forget about Tracy. He's one of the top 5 tight ends in Nebraska's program history. He is.
Yeah, and it's hard to measure tight ends just off stats because some guys were in different offenses.
Right. It's true.
Like Mike McNeil ended up being drafted, played in the league.
Yeah, he was good.
I'd put Johnny Mitchell,
Junior Miller, those kind of guys is what you're talking about. Matt Harrion
when he was healthy.
Yeah. So anyway, a great interview. I'm really thankful to Grant. You never know how those interviews are going to go. And Grant was ready to go. I was pleasantly surprised how opinionated he was. And that was, I feel really lucky that we got him.
All right. Well, before we move it into headline 3, HuskerOnline headlines, again, brought to you, our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you, the loved ones in your life. They can help you with simple things like cooking, cleaning, laundry, rides to doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, companionship. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn more about them and the services they can offer you. We're also brought to you by Huel. And look, Huel is everything you need in one bottle. It gives you over 30 grams of protein, all the vitamins and nutrients you need. And when you're on the go, it's perfect. In the morning, actually, it's 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins, fiber. It gives you a nice fill, gives you energy, gives you the protein. It comes in so many great flavors too, in the to-go bottles, as well as the powder you can get as well. And we've got a great deal with HuskerOnline. If you've never tried Huel, we're going to give you 15% off plus a free gift for our new customers. The code is Husker at Huel.com. That's HUEL.com. Again, that's promo code Husker at Huel.com. We'll give you 15% off plus a free gift for new customers of Huel. Give it a try. Thanks to Huel for sponsoring us here on HuskerOnline headlines. But let's get into headline 3. And, a little time has gone on since Wednesday. But an interview that we did almost 2 weeks ago, great interview with head coach Matt Rhule. And we are very, very fortunate to have Coach Rhule on and love the opportunity to talk to him and all the different things that we hit on. The interview resurfaced because like we see today in modern day journalism, people that don't do interviews take things from people's interviews and they clip them and write things how they want things to be written. Well, there was a joke where Matt Rhule, you asked him what playoff bracket scenario is best for Nebraska.
Yeah,
is it 12? Is it 14?
Yeah.
Is it 16? And and he jokingly said 40. Like as a joke. I mean, it's like, yeah, 12, 14, 16, heck, let's go 40. I mean, the more the better. But he was totally joking. Well, that from our own national brand of things, On 3 was picked up by the desk. The desk writes national stories, and they specifically wrote jokingly in their quote.
Yeah.
But social media blew it up, made it a big deal. Then Ari Wasserman, who works with Andy Staples, who used to work for The Athletic, was a former Ohio State beat writer for the Cleveland Plain Dealer before that, wrote a column kind of going at Rule a little bit for that comment.
No, he didn't go at him a little bit. He went at him.
And, you know, as guys on the local end, it sucks because we get associated to that, and we had nothing to do with that.
Just all of a sudden, you were on the phone
with
saying,
a lot
Sip,
more.
We have a problem.
I'm on the phone with some pretty important people. I'll just put it that way. I'm not going to get into my private discussions with folks I had, but yeah, it was unnecessary. And I don't even understand, because you and I are in the same boat. We don't write things like that. We don't.
Not usually. No,
we're not hit job artists.
Not usually. No, we're not. And I can't, I mean, there have been times I've done a little bit of that. I can get into that in a second, but I thought hit job. I don't know if it was quite a hit job, but it was close. I mean, it was singling out. It kind of singled out Matt, you know, as why does this guy, Matt Rule, keep making these, and he said, incredibly soft comments. Now I know this, what you do you do the same thing I do. You always kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of the people you're writing about. And man, if I were Rule reading Ari's column, I would have been hot. I would have called him immediately. I would have gotten his number somehow and said, what the hell is this? Like, what? First of all, you totally blindsided me. I mean, if you're going to write something like that, don't you let the person know, you know? I mean, I just know me as a man. I would have been pissed at that columnist. So I understand the reaction. If Matt was pissed, if I put myself in his shoes, I would have been hot.
Well, and then you take somebody's work from our company, us.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a great interview. And, you know, Matt Rule, we were very gracious for the time. And
this is a half-hour interview.
And then you kind of recraft and work it to angle something out of it like that. Yeah, the whole thing was disappointing, because anyone that watched when I first saw the tweet, I'm like, oh, they're finally going to write something off our interview. And in my mind, I'm like, great, because there was nothing controversial in this interview we just did. It was a great.
Well, and I think we should explain to our constituents on Husker Online, the reason I didn't write anything about what he said about the playoff matter was I thought it was pretty benign, and he had said it before. It wasn't new material. He had kind of just said in a different way what he has said before. But so I didn't feel a need to write it.
In what is a very slow time of news in college football, that kind of controlled about a 24-hour news cycle.
Mm-hmm.
At least, I mean, the tweet on 3 did over 1 million views.
Wow. So yeah, there's writers like you, like me, like Ari, we are looking for material right now. I'm doing it. This is a time of year where you kind of got to dig in and find your own stuff, because you're not handed stuff at press conferences. You don't have a game coming up against Purdue or whoever. You don't have a press conference in the spring. You got to kind of find your own stuff. So sometimes I think that my position on that is, I think sometimes it puts columnists, writers, you're kind of vulnerable in these times of year, because you're trying so hard to come up with stuff that will generate discussion. Traffic. I'll call it discussion, but traffic. Yeah. Traffic.
But yeah, it was an unfortunate deal, and we wanted to weigh in on it because we haven't had a chance to.
Right.
I didn't even know what was happening. Like I was at the state track meet, watching my niece run, and I'm kind of down by the fence waiting for the medals up there after a race got over.
Okay.
And then my phone just explodes with a lot of very important people. I'll just put it that way.
And then you texted me and said, we got kind of an S show. Sip, we have kind of an S show. I was like, oh, great. I'm just trying to work on my Michigan State preview, and we're doing the previews for our website, and I'm just knee deep in this Michigan State preview.
You're giving it hell like it's
right.
The 01 Rose Bowl.
And Sean sends me a text that says, "Hey, Sip, we got kind of an S show here."
No, I mean, the only thing, like, again, that bothers me about all this is, like, we did a good job with the interview with Rule, and we were gracious to get it and fortunate to get an interview like that.
Yeah.
And, something like this could affect this in the future. And that's what bothers me the most.
Right.
Because Rule, I don't think has any problem going on with this talk, but when people are going to, like, slice and dice his sentences out of context, from our company or any company for that matter.
Right.
That's where it's tough, but
yeah. I mean, it's kind of, you could kind of put it under the umbrella of part of the deal, part of the business, but I don't know. It doesn't have to be. Like I said, Ari does great work, obviously, but I read the column and I thought, oh yeah, that would anger me. Oh, and
I think it should have just been handled differently all along. All together. And I shook a lot of trees. I'll just be honest. I trust me. Like, my opinions have been voiced.
Okay. Well, there you go, Sean.
So, all right. Well, no, let's move it on to headline number 4.
It's kind of a fun discussion.
Before we get to that, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233. They're our title sponsor, and they're there for you, your loved ones. They can help you with day-to-day simple tasks, laundry, cooking, cleaning, rides to doctor's appointments. They make it easy. Maybe you don't want your loved one to have to move into a full-time facility. Maybe they just need a few hours a week of help. That's what they do. They come in and help you through those situations at 402-205-2233, StayHome.Care. But back by popular demand, Flashback Friday, headline number 4. Let's take Flashback Friday to 2013, Steve Sipple, when Nebraska traveled to Penn State. It was one of the harder stretches I've ever seen on a Nebraska schedule, where back-to-back weeks Nebraska played at Michigan and then at Penn State.
Small correction. They had a game in the middle of that. It was at Michigan, then Michigan State at Penn State.
Oh, it was Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan State played those two road games were sandwiched around a home game against Michigan.
Those were the back-to-back. Those were the 2 road games.
They were the back-to-back road games, yes. But there was a home game between them. But yeah, those are, well, think about, you could frame it up this way, Sean. You played at Michigan, then you played number 16 Michigan State at home, and then at Penn State. That's a rugged stretch.
And it was you go back to this season and what it was for Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Eichhorst, he officially took over as the athletic director that year. They hired him in the 2012 season.
Mm-hmm.
And so Osborne was still in charge of the 2012 season and all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then in 2013, Eichhorst was in, and it became pretty well known that Eichhorst didn't like Bo, or they didn't have a relationship. So there was already a lot of pressure.
Didn't like him. Was he hired to fire him? Is that
right?
Is that what you're getting at?
And there was already a lot of pressure, I think, on Bo. And they earlier in the year blew this UCLA game where they were up big on the Bruins,
21-0,
and they got beat 41-21.
I'll never forget it, because the guys I was around in the press box still give me hell about it. Because when Nebraska went up 21-0, I said, "Game over. This game's over, guys. Start writing. Game's over." Boy, they kill me for that.
Well, and because it made sense to say that, because it was a UCLA team playing at 11 a.m. on the road, so it's a 9 a.m. early morning for their body clocks. Like, Nebraska was in complete control. But then Brent Hundley got away, like, on a sack, threw a pass that, like, got a touchdown or a big first down, changed the whole game.
Hundley. Good name, Sean. He was a good one.
Rick Neuheisel's recruit that Jim Mora got a coach. But, yeah, they lose that game.
Wow, that's there you go. That your elephant memory like an elephant. Okay.
They win 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Then they lose at Minnesota as an injured Taylor Martinez comes back and just doesn't look good. They get beat 34-23 in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
It's an 11 a.m. game out there.
2 losses.
then they get the game against Northwestern, and they should have lost probably. And they get the Hail Mary play, saves that game.
Yep.
With Ron Kellogg.
Yep.
They go out to Michigan and win with Ron Kellogg.
Oh, now remember, Tommy made that pitch to Amir.
Oh, so they both played that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had Tommy and Ron Kellogg both playing together.
Yeah.
But Tommy was in at Michigan.
Yeah. Tommy made the pitch to Amir option play to win the game. Remember? Corner of the end zone. Yeah.
And it was 17-13.
Yeah.
Randy Gregory, was unreal that game.
Yep.
Led the Big Ten in sacks that season.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're back home. They lose to Michigan State. So all of a sudden, they're a 3-loss team on November 16th. And a rumor gets put out there on like the internet, on Facebook or somewhere, that Bo Pelini was going to get fired by Nebraska. So they're out at Penn State. They're playing this game with Ron Kellogg and Tommy Armstrong because Taylor's hurt. Penn State's pretty good. It's Bill O'Brien.
Yep.
And
it's Christian
Hackenberg.
Christian Hackenberg.
It's
right?
cold.
It is. We have to emphasize the weather. It was horrible conditions. I mean, I would call it brutal cold with a strong wind blowing in from the north, probably. Brutal cold. But Nebraska plays pretty well, right?
Yeah, so they come out and they play well. Considering their situation at quarterback, but they had some penalties and things go their way. But before the game, Bo Pelini addressed his team that this might be it, guys. Almost like wanted to rally his team to let them know that, hey, I'm probably getting fired. They want me to lose this game and fire me.
Bo, it was a rough day for Bo. It was, Amir had a fumble, and it was tense on the sideline between Bo and Ron Brown. There was a lot of tension on the sideline. I don't think Bo was at his best. Let's put it that way that day as a head coach. And I think the assistants kind of had to kick into gear, Sean.
Because he thought he was getting fired.
Well, I think he was right. Yeah, he's probably a little rattled. And it was a typical kind of a tough game. That wasn't a bad Penn State team. It was a 6-5 Penn State team. Not bad, not great. But you remember they typical Penn State. They played Zach Zwienik at Zwinak at running back, and he was just a hammering.
They had big tight ends,
big running back who got 140 plus yards, and it was going to be a game that went to the wire. You figured it would, and it did. And then what happened? Overtime.
Well, the Kenny Bell kick return,
99-yard kick return,
was huge in that game.
Yeah, he had a 99-yard kick return.
But the other thing, there was a play where Sam Birch, I think, had a big play, and they called an illegal block in the back, and it took away a touchdown.
No, Sam Birch made the illegal block in the back.
Right. They penalized him for this illegal block in the back, and it took away a huge play in that game.
It was a 60-yard touchdown run by Amir Abdullah that got called back because Birch was flagged for a personal foul. I don't remember what he did.
And it wasn't even a penalty.
It wiped out the go-ahead score. You don't think it was a penalty?
No.
Was that the one where Papuchis?
Yeah, so the legendary story John Papuchis shared years later was he goes to the referee and says, hey, and assistant coaches aren't usually supposed to talk to refs.
No, they don't.
And he goes, how's it feel? How's it feel? You just cost me my effing job.
It's funny in hindsight. It's not funny when men lose their jobs, but when anybody loses their jobs. But my God.
So yeah,
that was a stressful day. I mean, it was really stressful.
It allowed Penn State then to go back up 20-17.
Okay.
Then Nebraska puts together a 12-play, 73-yard drive in regulation to tie it. 2020. They go to overtime.
And guess what happens? Their kicker, Sam Ficken, misses a 37-yard field goal on the first possession of overtime. So Nebraska's got a wide open shot now, right? Remember that? And then what happened? Well, it was amazing. It was amazing.
So then Pat Smith
Yep.
comes in and Nebraska gets a delay of game penalty.
So he hits a 37-yarder, but it's erased into the wind. Into the wind. It's a 37-yard field goal. He makes it, flag.
Back it up 5 yards.
Back it up 5 yards. And I'm thinking, there is no way this kid is going to make another field goal into that wind with a ball that's probably as hard as a rock, but he drills it.
It was
no doubt.
I'll never forget after it got off his foot, the late Sam Foltz just stands up and throws his hands up. That second, it was like not even like a thought. It was in. And those shoes that Pat kicked on that kick, he placed those shoes on the grave of Sam Foltz.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, at the funeral. I was there.
You're kidding me.
So the shoes from the Penn State kick, Pat put on the grave of Sam.
Because that was Pat Smith's shining moment in Nebraska.
Well, he's only here 1 year.
1 year. 12 for 13. He was here for 1 year, Sean. He was 12 for 13. He was a very good kicker.
That was a Jeff Jamrog special. They didn't have a kicker. Morrow Bondi ended up not working out.
No, they went. Yeah, you're right. They went into a competition. Pat Smith and Morrow Bondi, and Pat Smith won the competition.
And Morrow Bondi also couldn't punt. Like Nebraska got in this run where the kicker and punter were the same guy because they had Henry and Maher, and that was unrealistic to have that continue.
Right.
And so they didn't even know Foltz was going to punt.
Really?
He was playing safety. He played safety and wide receiver. Then they
turned into a hell of a punter.
Then they figured out that he was a better punter than anyone they had, so they moved him to punter.
And then so Pat Smith comes in from Western Illinois. He was a transfer, kind of a rare. He was a graduate transfer from Western Illinois. So he comes in and goes 12 for 13, back up. And whenever he came in, he had to beat out Morrow Bondi.
And he did.
And he did
pretty easily.
Yeah. So
Pat is an underrated kicker
for sure.
And he was a leader in that moment. But yeah, they win the game. Then they go on and win the Gator Bowl.
Right.
And Pat was big in the Gator Bowl.
Yep.
He made a bunch of kicks in that Gator Bowl game to beat
Against
Georgia.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when they won that game. You knew Bo was in trouble long term because it was kind of a walk-off win. They held on to win.
Well, they had lost to Iowa the game to end the season.
They had lost to Iowa when they didn't have they had Ron Kellogg start.
Yeah, 38-7.
And they were pretty beat up in that game. But Eichhorst did not smile or celebrate at all when they beat Georgia.
No, we were in I hope people understand, it was a very tense time in the program because it happens in college football. It happens probably in pro football where the leadership really doesn't want the coach to win.
Imagine beating Georgia and not being happy about it.
Well, it happens, and it was happening. When Pat Smith hits that kick to beat Penn State, it's, the administration's not happy. I mean,
it's kind of like when Frank beat Colorado in 2003.
Very much the same. The administration's not happy. They don't want to win that game because why? It just makes it harder to fire the guy. So we're in a very awkward time. That's when I think of Bo's tenure, most of it, I just think it was awkward because his bosses didn't want him to succeed. And Bo knew it. He would tell the coaches, no big purchases. I mean, I don't know how we got to win a lot of games to survive this. That's just the dead truth. They didn't want him there. And now there's people that it's a very complicated discussion because a lot of people say, well, Bo dug his own grave because he had such a bad attitude. Or did he have a bad attitude because he was always under ungodly pressure, right? It wasn't ungodly pressure for Bo. I want people to understand this. It wasn't because of he just felt this enormous responsibility to the guys that worked for him, and not just the assistants, everybody. And if he goes, he knows a lot of those people are going to lose their jobs.
90% of people lose. I mean, like when Rule came in to Nebraska from, less than 10 people probably keep their positions.
Exactly. And some guys feel enormous responsibility, and Bo did. Bo was fine. He was going to be fine financially. It was a stressful situation for him. He was probably half happy that he got fired, but not for the people under him. That was the issue.
Yeah, just imagine, though, in a given year, Nebraska beats Penn State on the road, Michigan on the road, and Georgia in a bowl game.
It's amazing.
And the AD's not happy.
No, they wanted him fired. They wanted him fired. You can say that as a statement, too, as a statement of fact.
Well,
the AD's not happy.
The chancellor wanted him fired.
The AD did, too. Well, because the AD was hired by the chancellor to fire Bo, essentially. We all know that. So, yeah, it's just awkward. I understand it happens in college sports. It's not necessarily unique, but whenever it happens, it's awkward. And it was very awkward. It sucked. I mean, it was almost like you didn't really celebrate the win. It was just kind of a relief, like, yeah, well, we staved them off another week,
Yeah, survive in advance.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, going into those stadiums, even Michigan wasn't a great team. That was Brady Hoke, and Brady Hoke was fired at the end of that year, I believe. It wasn't a great Michigan team, but you were there packed.
You're still winning games in stadiums with 100,000 fans.
Ann Arbor, State College. Those were rough environments. I always remember that Michigan game because I missed the elevator to get down to the post game, and I had to walk through the crowd to get to the post game.
Angry.
Whoa. It was not good. Those are tough. That's a tough crowd, too.
It would have been like if Nebraska won at Ohio State this year.
Dangerous.
People were angry.
Angry.
When Nebraska took the lead late in the fourth quarter in Columbus, and they were a stop away from getting the ball back and probably icing the game away.
Just a bunch. What I remember, just a bunch of big blue collar dudes dropping F-bombs.
They were throwing stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Flashback Friday. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a Monday show, so we're not going to have a Mayhem Monday. But we can
do Mayhem Monday a week from Monday.
Yeah. So we'll have Mayhem Monday, Flashback Friday. I think people enjoy those.
Yeah.
All right.
I enjoy them. Thank you.
Before we go to the final headline, again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn more about them and their services. Thanks again to StayHome.Care. They're the title sponsor here of Husker Online Headlines. But let's close out the show with odds and ends. I want to start, got baseball and the Big Ten tournament. They got a must-win game Friday. So I don't want to get too into the weeds because this show is going to air all weekend. But, man.
We can just say that Nebraska's dangerous. I think they're a dangerous
They got to
team.
beat a little legitimate super regional type team, though, in Oregon.
They do, but let's not talk about it too much. But I just think Nebraska did a good job late in the season, won 6 of their last 7 series, and they're just a kind of a dangerous little team now.
But they're a flawed team.
Oh yeah,
I mean they're not. They don't have all their loose ends tied up, and they've had to manage that all year.
They lost Mason Big Lake McConaughey. I was wondering if you'd pick up on that. He was their ace.
Mason, don't call me Matthew.
yeah. Big Lake. And he so that was a blow to lose your early in the season, lose your ace preseason.
All Big Ten big pitcher. And then they had to go beat Michigan State's ace, who was the pitcher of the year and a first rounder. So
right.
Yeah, this will be don't give up on Will, but this could be it for him. Friday might be it. The season could be over.
Right. But one thing I will remember about this Nebraska team is they keep coming. They got down a lot late in the year to teams and come and would rally back. They keep coming, and they did it against Michigan State in the first game of the Big Ten tournament. They were down 4-1. Got lucky. They got lucky in the 8th. When that outfielder dropped the ball ninth inning that would have ended the game. There's some luck involved, but they kept coming, they kept pressing, and they won the game in extra innings.
Then softball, Jordy Ball, Tennessee, Nebraska, super regionals. They're going to get the center windows on ESPN on Saturday, ESPN2 Friday. So a lot of eyes on Nebraska softball. I think they can come out of this regional.
It's a massive opportunity for Nebraska, and 100%. This is a good Nebraska team. It's, we all know what the deal is with Jordy Ball. You can make a case she's the best player in the country because of what she does at the plate and in the circle, but it's not just her.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good offensive team. Nebraska, Rhonda put together a good offensive team. Not just Jordy. It's Ava Cusack, for instance, has 20 plus homers too. The shortstop. They're well-rounded.
And then I do want to hit on the volleyball ticket receipt.
Okay. This is Sean, the athletic director.
So we got kind of volleyball season ticket holders, which is the hardest ticket to get in Nebraska right now for Husker sports.
Yep.
They were notified they'll be doing a reseat.
Okay.
And it's kind of a prequel to what's going to happen with football after the stadium's done years from now, but essentially eliminating ticket grandfathering. And I had one ticket holder I know say, they've been kind of doing, they've kind of already been, setting this up the last couple of years. Reading this email that I received here from a friend, one of his dad's friends who had the B level at Devaney had the same seat since they moved. The donation went from $100 a seat in 2023 to $250 a seat in 2024, and now it is now $500 a seat in 2025. So clearly, they're trying to match what the demand is for Nebraska volleyball. But the reseat is going to be what's interesting because priority points will they're going to ultimately reseat the whole venue, and your selection time will be based on how much money you've donated to Husker athletics.
This to be clear, this is before the 2026 season.
Correct.
That's when it would go into.
Dannon has said, if we do this, we give you a whole year to kind of do it right. We're not just
have to, right?
Yeah, you can't just say, hey, you got 3 months.
Right.
So there'll be a lot of people, though, that have never really had to donate much or anything to get seats that could be left in the dust or put up in the nosebleeds because they don't have any priority points.
Wow.
And that will be the one controversial thing. It's going to happen with football too, though.
That's, you know what that is? It's the price of amazing success. There's a price. There's a literal price.
Yeah. And it's, like, let's just use Duke basketball and Kansas basketball. Like they're not going to grandfather low prices. I mean, they have to maximize it. Yep. And Nebraska volleyball is Kansas basketball. It is Duke basketball on a women's sports level.
Yeah. The athletic department put out a statement. It said priority seating provides a tremendous resource for athletic department and is critically important in the new era of intercollegiate athletics. That's a polite way, a comfortable way of saying priority seating provides a tremendous amount of cash for our athletic department and is critically important to pay the players.
Translation, money.
Right.
But right. No, I mean, if you could come up with millions of more annual revenue.
Yeah. Got to do it.
And you're still, Dannon said back when they hired Danny Busby Kelly, the waiting list for volleyball ticket is like 8,000 people on the wait list.
Whoa. That is
they'll
amazing.
never do this, but if they played every match at PBA, I'm convinced they'd all be sold out there.
I'm not going to push back on that. Now here's the thing though, with a caveat. They're going to be sold out as long as they're a top 10, maybe top 5 team. But Sean, if they would ever drop off a little bit where they're losing in the Sweet 16, they're finishing in 6 to 10 and 6 to 10th in the Big Ten. If that ever happened, they're not selling out PBA.
Here's why it won't happen long term.
Do you understand that though?
Yeah, but that's a big what if, because now in the NIL era, they have the biggest war chest to fix that problem quickly. Like it's not going to be a long-term problem.
Good point.
If they brought in a roster of some players that didn't gel,
right?
They have the money to reset.
They have everything to reset.
And so I'm not too worried about it.
Right.
Because
isn't that something?
Yeah. I mean, John Cook's bad year is not making the Final Four.
It got to be that way. If they lost in the Sweet 16, you're like breathless, like what happened?
I mean, there was an era though where Nebraska volleyball was having a hard time to win a game against Washington or somebody to make it to the final. There was a little era.
There was, and John had to look seriously at some of the things he was doing. He wrote down a list, I think, one time of 20 things that he had to address, and he did it. And then they went to another level. They shot to another level.
So the seating reseat will happen a year from now. But finally, on odds and ends, state track. I don't know how much you follow to that, but man, some unbelievable performances. Juan Gonzalez
at Fremont
distance runner, took home 4 golds.
Juan.
The 800, the 1600, the 3200, and the 4x8 relay. He also captured the gold earlier this year in the state cross country meet, which he's won multiple years in a row. So Juan Gonzalez goes 5 for 5 on golds.
Is he getting some Phil Knight money?
Yeah, he's going to Oregon. And here's Juan running right here.
Hold on, let me see.
And
this.
I mean, he's got swag, serious swag for a distance runner. I mean, I was right next to him on the track Wednesday. Those are guys that he's lapping ahead of him. Like, he's far ahead of the field right now. But he just got done winning a race, and look how not tired he looks.
Wow, man, that is something else. So Juan is headed to Oregon.
And he earlier this year, I think he ran a 4:03 mile or 1600. He didn't get that time at state because he had to run 4 events. He wasn't really trying to break records. He was trying to win golds.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a track athlete that we could be talking about in the Olympics. And
Wow,
he's going out to Oregon, and he said that he's, my next goal in 2028 is to be running in LA.
Okay, he probably will be.
Ike Ackerman, Omaha Central, breaks the Marty Kopska. Are you familiar with Marty Kopska, the shot put thrower from
Kobza?
Kopsa from Schuyler.
Kobza.
Was he your age too?
Say it.
Kopska.
No, Kobza.
Kobza.
Yeah.
Kobza.
Yes. No, I don't know that he was my age, but I definitely remember him from Schuyler 100%. So he broke Kobza's record?
Yes.
Really?
That record was like 43 years old.
Wow.
He broke it on his first throw. He goes over 67 feet at the state meet on his first throw.
Wow.
But wins the discus. One of the top throwers in America. You know what the number 1 shot put thrower is in the country?
I don't.
Jackson Cantwell.
Oh, really?
He throws this shot like 75 feet.
Does he really?
He throws a shot like over 70 feet.
Okay, that's freaking.
He's
funny.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's.
But yeah, Ike Ackerman wins both.
Wow.
That's a guy I'm going to be following closely at Ohio.
You'll be following him closely at Ohio because he's probably his next stop is probably Nebraska.
I'll tell you the hard job now.
Am I wrong?
Nebraska or somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to a coach at another school that I think a lot of people wish they would have maybe known about him earlier. He led the state in sacks.
Yeah.
He had 15 sacks.
So I guess you got to do this. You're the expert. Why isn't he at Nebraska now? I mean, why isn't he Nebraska bound now?
He signed a letter of intent to Ohio.
Well, I know that, but why wasn't he recruited to Nebraska?
They were worried about the roster numbers in the 105, and they just
got to ask the question.
They didn't know. I mean, the number situation.
I'm asking in a non-judgmental way.
Look, and they took 3 elite D linemen.
Right.
I mean, you look at the guys they took 3 high 4-stars.
Right. Malcolm Simpson, Terry, and the kid.
Cade Pedshock.
Right. From Dakotas. Right.
Speaking about Terry, the job of the 2 newspapers to come up with the high school athlete of the year is going to be really difficult.
Because
you got Juan Gonzalez,
Ooh.
5 golds, cross country and track.
Ooh.
You've got Ike Ackerman, led the state in sacks, first team all-state football, 1 shot and disc, started on Central's basketball team. And then you got Tyson Terry. All-state football, and also undefeated as a wrestler.
169-0. I'm going with the heavyweight wrestler that never lost.
And I talked to somebody involved, and I think it's going to end up being Terry.
I'm going with the wrestler who wrestled with a torn ACL and won all.
And he was all Nebraska football.
Yeah, that's who.
But those 3 are pretty tough candidates to pick.
Really hard. I'd say I would go Terry, Fremont runner, Ackerman.
I mean, Ackerman's broke a 43-year-old record.
Yeah, that's Marty Kobza.
But
say it with me,
Kobza. Gonzalez set the 1600. I mean, Gonzalez has all the records. I mean, it is an extremely.
That's a great field.
Guys.
I
mean, all 3 of those guys.
It's a great field.
I don't envy
Sam
and Stu and Brett Wagner and our friends at the papers. Like, they have to make that decision.
Yeah. Well, I hope we helped.
We didn't help him. We told him I'd pick all 3.
Well, you can't do that. I don't want that. Don't make it a 3-way tie, right?
No.
Pick somebody, not co-winners, not triple winners, right?
I think it'll end up being Terry, if I had to guess.
Yes, my guess too.
But man, it's hard to look past those records those other guys broke.
I know. Yeah. No, it's amazing.
All right. Well, Memorial Day weekend.
Long weekend, Sean. We're not doing a Monday
show. We're off Monday. We'll be back Wednesday and Friday. So we went a little longer today for you, so you hopefully get a little bit more of Sipple for the weekend.
I got to put up this Michigan State. I didn't put up the preview yet. It's supposed to go up at noon.
All right. Well, thanks again to former Husker legend Grant Wistrom. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean
Wistrom was great.
Callahan.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great, safe, happy Memorial Day weekend.